On a dreary evening in the bustling metropolis of Neo Haven, Ethan Drake, a seasoned engineer, was deep in thought. He worked in the top floor of a towering skyscraper, surrounded by holographic screens projecting intricate designs of a new spaceship. Despite his advanced age, Ethan's mind was still sharp, and his hands were as steady as they had been decades ago. The world around him had changed. Hover cars zipped by, and people were more connected to their digital devices than to each other. But Ethan still found solace in building something tangible. His work was interrupted by an unusual alert on his screen. A faint blip on the radar showed an unidentified object entering Earth's atmosphere. At first, he dismissed it as another malfunction of the outdated satellite systems. But then the blip grew larger and closer, until it hovered just above the city. The radar's alarm blared, and Ethan's heart raced. The object was descending rapidly toward the old city park, a place now mostly forgotten and overrun with nature. Curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed his worn leather jacket, a relic from his days as a pilot in the Space Corps, and rushed out. The streets were eerily quiet as he made his way to the park, the glow of the descending object illuminating the path. By the time he arrived, the object had landed with a soft hum, nestled among the trees. It wasn't a spaceship, at least not one he had ever seen. The craft was sleek, almost organic in design, and pulsated with a soft, ethereal light. As Ethan approached cautiously, a door slid open with a whisper. From the shadows inside, a figure emerged. A young woman, though clearly not human. Her skin was a soft lavender, her eyes large and gleaming with intelligence. She looked around, taking in her surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. The woman turned to him, her expression softening. "I am Zuri, of the Aurelian people," she said, her voice melodious yet laced with an unfamiliar accent. "I seek refuge. Your planet is the last safe haven." Ethan frowned. Safe haven from what? Zuri's eyes darkened with fear. "From those who wish to destroy all that we stand for. They are coming, and they will not stop until every trace of my people is erased." I didn't mean to bring this upon your world." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. He had seen many things in his life, but never had he encountered someone, or something, so desperate, so vulnerable. "You're safe here," he said after a moment, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. Zuri's gaze softened, but her worry remained. "They will come. They are relentless. But I do not understand. Why do you not tremble before me? Why are you not afraid?" Ethan smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I've seen fear, Zuri. I've lived through wars, through battles that tore apart the very fabric of what we believed in. But fear never got me anywhere. What matters is what we do with what we're given. If there's a fight coming, we'll face it together." Zuri stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Together," she repeated, as if testing the word on her tongue. As they stood there, the first drops of rain began to fall, pattering against the strange craft. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine, not from fear, but from the weight of what was to come. The unknown loomed before them, but he couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement, a thrill he hadn't felt in years. "Come on," he said, turning back towards the city. "We need to get you somewhere safe. There's a lot we need to figure out." Zuri hesitated, casting one last glance at the sky before following him. As they walked side by side, the city's lights casting long shadows behind them, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much larger. The calm before the storm. On the fringes of the galaxy, beyond the known star systems, the starship Athena hovered in the endless void. Maya stood at the edge of the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the unfamiliar stars that glimmered outside. The reflection of the control panel's soft lights illuminated her face as she pondered the events that had led her crew this far from home. Captain Maya, a seasoned leader known for her quick wit and unyielding resolve, had led the Athena through countless missions, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but none had felt as enigmatic and unnerving as the sudden message her crew intercepted just days earlier. The message was simple, yet unsettling. You are not alone. Approach with caution. No indication of origin, no sign of who or what had sent it. The crew debated whether to follow the signal or steer clear, but Maya's curiosity got the better of her. She had always believed that the unknown was meant to be explored, no matter the risk. So they followed it. Now, the ship was on course towards an uncharted system, the message growing clearer with each passing day. Whatever was waiting for them, Maya knew they were nearing it. Captain, a voice broke through her thoughts. It was Dr. Elias, the ship's chief scientist and one of her closest confidants. His face was a mix of excitement and concern. We've picked up another signal. It's coming from the same coordinates as before, but it's different this time. Maya turned, her brow furrowed. Different how? Dr. Elias hesitated, glancing at the data on his handheld screen. It's not just a warning anymore. It's a direct message, and it's asking for you specifically. Her stomach tightened. Me? Yes, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. It mentioned you by name. The command deck buzzed with a nervous energy as the crew gathered to listen to the incoming message. The display screen flickered to life, showing a faint, distorted image. At first, it was just static. Then, slowly, a figure began to take shape. It was humanoid, but not entirely. The features were obscured, but it was clear that this was not a human. Captain Maya of the Athena. The voice began, smooth and calculated. You have ventured into territory that does not belong to you, but I am not here to harm you. In fact, I am here to propose an arrangement. Maya's heart raced. She stepped forward, keeping her voice steady. Who are you? And what kind of arrangement are we talking about? The figure on the screen tilted its head slightly, as if amused by her directness. My name is Zyra, and I am what you would call an ambassador of my people. We have been observing your species for some time now, and we believe you possess a unique potential, one that could benefit us both. Observing, Maya repeated, a hint of suspicion creeping into her voice. Why us? And why now? Because you, Captain, embody the traits that your species excels in: curiosity, resilience, and the ability to adapt. We are not so different, you and I, Zyra replied. Our worlds may be separated by light years, but our goals are aligned. I propose a partnership, one where we share knowledge and resources to achieve something greater than either of our civilizations could alone. Maya narrowed her eyes. And what's in it for you? Zyra's voice grew softer, almost conspiratorial. Our species is facing a threat that we cannot defeat on our own. Your people, with their ingenuity and tenacity, may hold the key to our survival. In return, we offer you technologies that could propel your civilization forward by centuries. The room was silent as the crew processed the weight of Zyra's words. Maya felt a surge of conflicting emotions: curiosity, fear, and a strange sense of responsibility. The offer was tempting, but the risks were immense. Could they really trust this alien entity? Maya glanced at her crew, seeing the uncertainty mirrored in their faces. She knew what they were thinking, but ultimately, the decision rested with her. I need more than just promises, Maya said, her voice firm. If we're going to consider this, we need proof. Show us something that makes us believe this is more than just an elaborate trap. Zyra's figure flickered on the screen, and for a moment, Maya thought they might refuse. But then, the alien nodded. Very well, you will have your proof. Prepare for my arrival. The screen went dark, leaving the room in stunned silence. Maya turned to her crew, her mind racing with possibilities. Zyra was coming to them. Whatever happened next, their lives would never be the same. Hours passed, and the tension on the ship grew thicker. The crew prepared for the aliens' arrival with equal parts caution and excitement. The Athena's sensors detected a small craft approaching, unlike anything they had seen before. Its sleek design shimmered as it docked with the ship, and Maya stood at the airlock, flanked by her senior officers. The air in the corridor was tense, charged with anticipation and anxiety. The crew's eyes were fixed on the sealed hatch, awaiting the arrival of their enigmatic visitor. The small craft that had docked with the Athena was unlike any human technology, smooth, organic in design, with no visible seams or markings. It was almost as if it had grown rather than been constructed. With a hiss of decompressing air, the hatch began to open. The crew instinctively took a step back, their hands hovering near their weapons, even though Maya had ordered them to stand down. She could feel their unease, but she kept her own expression calm, masking her own nervousness. The first thing she noticed as the hatch fully opened was the light. A soft, ethereal glow that emanated from within the craft. Then the figure emerged. Zyra was taller than any human, with a slender, graceful frame. Their skin had a silvery sheen, like polished metal, and their eyes were a deep, penetrating black. There was an air of both elegance and power about them, as if every movement was calculated and deliberate. Despite their alien appearance, there was something disarmingly familiar in the way they carried themselves. "Captain Maya," Zyra said, inclining their head in a gesture of respect. Their voice, though slightly distorted by a translation device, was calm and soothing. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Maya nodded, maintaining her composure. "You said you had proof, something to convince us that your offer is genuine." Zyra's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Indeed. But first, I believe introductions are in order." Maya motioned to her crew. "This is Dr. Elias, our chief scientist, and Lieutenant Commander Harper, my second in command." The others introduced themselves as well, each with a wary politeness. Zyra acknowledged each one before turning back to Maya. "Now, if you'll follow me, I believe you will find this demonstration most enlightening." Without another word, Zyra led them back into their craft. The interior was just as alien as the exterior, soft, flowing lines that seemed to shift and change as they moved, as if the walls themselves were alive. It was a stark contrast to the hard, metallic structure of the Athena. Zyra guided them to a central chamber where a large translucent sphere hovered in midair. It pulsed gently with a blue light, casting eerie shadows across the room. "This," Zyra began, "is a repository of knowledge, containing everything we have learned about the universe and about your species." Maya exchanged a glance with Dr. Elias, who looked both fascinated and skeptical. "And how does this prove your intentions?" Zyra approached the sphere, extending a hand towards it. The surface rippled like water, and suddenly, images began to form within. The crew watched in awe as scenes from human history played out before them. Great achievements, terrible wars, moments of triumph and despair. It was as if the entire story of humanity was contained within this one device. "These are your people," Zyra said softly. "We have studied you for centuries, watched as you evolved, as you grew into the beings you are today. We did not interfere, only observed. But now we face a challenge that we cannot overcome alone." The images shifted, showing a vast expanse of space filled with colossal ships and strange, menacing creatures. The scale of the threat was overwhelming. Massive fleets of unknown origin, dark and foreboding, advancing through the stars like an unstoppable force. "This is what we face," Zyra continued, their tone grave. "Threat that consumes everything in its path, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. We call them the Voidborn, and they are unlike anything we have encountered before. We have managed to hold them at bay, but only just. We need allies. Your kind possesses the creativity and adaptability that we lack." Maya felt a chill run down her spine as she watched the alien fleet advance across the sphere. The thought of such a force descending upon humanity was terrifying. But could they really trust Zyra and their people? Dr. Elias stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the sphere. Why us? Why now? If you've been observing us for so long, why didn't you reach out earlier? Zyra's gaze shifted to him, their expression unreadable. Because until now, your species was not ready. But recent events have shown that you are capable of great things, that you have the potential to be more than just observers in this galaxy. We need your help, and in return, we offer you knowledge and technology that could secure your future. Maya considered Zyra's words carefully. There was something compelling about their plea, but also something that made her uneasy. And what happens if we refuse? Zyra's eyes darkened. If you refuse, we will continue to fight alone, but our chances of success diminish greatly. If we fall, it will only be a matter of time before the Voidborn find your world as well. This is not just our fight, Captain. It is yours too. The weight of Zyra's words hung in the air, and Maya felt the burden of the decision pressing down on her. The stakes were high, higher than anything she had ever faced. She glanced at her crew, seeing the same uncertainty reflected in their eyes. Finally, she turned back to Zyra. We'll need time to consider your offer. This is not a decision we can make lightly. Zyra nodded, their expression softening. Of course, take the time you need. But remember, time is not on our side. With that, Zyra stepped back, allowing Maya and her crew to leave the alien craft. As they returned to the familiar corridors of the Athena, Maya's mind raced with questions. Could they really trust Zyra? Was this alliance the right choice, or were they walking into a trap? As they reached the command deck, Maya turned to her officers. I want all available data on this Voidborn threat. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with before we make any decisions. Dr. Elias nodded, already pulling up information on his handheld device. I'll start analyzing the data we've gathered from Zyra's sphere. There might be clues there that can help us understand their true intentions. Maya nodded, feeling a sense of resolve harden within her. Whatever decision they made, it would shape the future of humanity, and she would make sure it was the right one. The unknown lay before them, vast and terrifying, but Maya knew one thing for certain. They would face it together, as they always had. Days passed, and the atmosphere aboard the Athena grew more tense with each passing hour. The crew was restless, caught between the familiar routine of their duties and the looming uncertainty of the decision that lay ahead. Maya could feel the weight of their eyes on her as she walked the corridors, each one silently asking the same question. What will we do? In the privacy of her quarters, Maya sat at her desk, surrounded by reports and data feeds. The information they had gathered from Zyra's sphere was staggering in its complexity, revealing not only the full scope of the Voidborn threat, but also the vast technological advancements of Zyra's people. It was more than they could have imagined. Technology that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of the universe, if they chose to accept it. But the more Maya studied the data, the more questions it raised. The Voidborn were unlike any other species humanity had encountered. They were not just invaders. They were a force of nature, an all-consuming entity that sought to devour entire worlds. Their origins were shrouded in mystery, and even Zyra's people knew little about where they came from or what drove them. All they knew was that the Voidborn left nothing but desolation in their wake. Maya's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime at her door. "Come in," she called, straightening in her chair. The door slid open, and Lieutenant Commander Harper stepped inside. He looked as tired as Maya felt, his normally sharp features softened by fatigue. "Captain, I thought you might want an update on the crew's status." Maya nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat. "Go ahead." Harper settled into the chair opposite her, glancing down at the tablet in his hands. "Morale is mixed, to say the least. The uncertainty is wearing on everyone, and there are concerns about the potential alliance with Xyra's people. Some are worried we're being manipulated. Maya sighed, rubbing her temples. I can't blame them. This is a situation none of us are prepared for. Harper hesitated for a moment before continuing. There's something else, Captain. We've received a message from Earth. Command is demanding an update on our mission, and they want to know why we've gone off course. Maya felt a knot of tension tighten in her chest. Of course, Earth would want answers. Their original mission was supposed to be a simple survey of nearby star systems, nothing that would attract this kind of attention. But now, with the discovery of the Voidborn and the potential alliance with Xyra's people, everything had changed. What did you tell them? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. I told them the truth, that we encountered an unknown alien species and are currently assessing the situation. Harper replied, but they're pushing for more details. They want to know if the threat is real and if we're in danger. Maya leaned back in her chair, staring up at the ceiling. We can't afford to delay much longer. We need to make a decision. Harper nodded, his expression serious. Agreed. But whatever we decide, we have to consider the long-term consequences. This isn't just about us. It's about the future of our entire species. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his words settle over her. He was right. This was bigger than any of them, bigger than the Athena or their mission. The fate of humanity could very well depend on the choice they made in the coming days. Have Dr. Elias and the science team made any progress? She asked, changing the subject. Harper glanced at his tablet again. They've identified some potential weaknesses in the Voidborn fleet's design. It's not much, but it's something. They're also working on integrating some of Xyra's technology into our systems, but it's slow going. The tech is so advanced that it's difficult to understand, let alone replicate. Maya nodded, grateful for even a sliver of hope. Keep me updated. I want to know the moment we have anything concrete. Harper stood, his posture as rigid as ever despite his exhaustion. Understood, Captain. I'll make sure the crew is ready for whatever comes next. As he left, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She had always prided herself on being a decisive leader, someone who could take charge in any situation. But this was unlike anything she had ever faced. The burden of responsibility felt almost too much to bear. Yet she knew she couldn't afford to waver, not now. The lives of her crew, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself, depended on her ability to lead them through this crisis. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. The following day, Maya convened a meeting with her senior officers in the war room. The atmosphere was tense as they gathered around the central table, a holographic display of the Voidborn fleet hovering above it. All right, Maya began, her voice steady. We need to decide our next move. Dr. Elias, what have you found? Dr. Elias, who looked as tired as everyone else, activated a series of holographic diagrams. We've identified several points of vulnerability in the Voidborn ships. Their energy shields are incredibly strong, but they have blind spots, areas where the shields are weakest. If we can target those spots, we might be able to do some damage. Lieutenant Commander Harper frowned, studying the diagrams. And what about their weaponry? How do we defend against that? Elias shook his head. That's the problem. Their weapons are unlike anything we've ever seen. Energy-based, but with a level of destructive power that far exceeds anything in our arsenal. We're still trying to figure out how to counter it. Maya listened intently, weighing their options. What about the technology Xyra has offered? Could it help? Elias hesitated, glancing at the others. It's possible, but we're still in the early stages of understanding it. Integrating it into our systems could take time we might not have. Harper spoke up, his voice grim, and then there's the question of trust. How do we know Xyra isn't leading us into a trap? Maya considered this, her mind racing. We don't. but we also can't ignore the potential benefits. If Zyra is telling the truth, this alliance could be our only chance to survive. Silence fell over the room as they all grappled with the enormity of the situation. Finally, Maya made her decision. "We're going to take a calculated risk," she said, her voice firm. "We'll continue working on integrating Zyra's technology, but we'll also prepare for the possibility that this is a trap. I want the ship on high alert, and I want contingency plans in place for every possible scenario." The officers nodded, their expressions resolute. There was no turning back now. As the meeting broke up and the officers returned to their stations, Maya lingered in the war room, staring at the holographic display of the Voidborn fleet. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, and the choices they made could have far-reaching consequences. But she also knew that she couldn't do it alone. With a deep breath, she activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Maya to all crew members. We are facing a challenge unlike any we have encountered before. I know many of you are uncertain and afraid, but I need you to trust in each other and in our ability to overcome this. We have always risen to the occasion, and I believe we can do so again. Prepare yourselves. We are about to enter the most important battle of our lives." She ended the transmission and stared out at the stars, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. And they would not go down without a fight. The Athena moved through the cold, dark expanse of space, the stars distant and unmoving. On the bridge, the crew worked in tense silence, each member focused on their tasks as they prepared for what lay ahead. The ship's systems hummed with energy, newly enhanced by the alien technology that Zyra had shared. Despite their unease, there was a sense of purpose in the air. Determination to face whatever awaited them. Captain Maya stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the Voidborn fleet in stark detail. The enemy ships loomed like shadows, vast and menacing, their forms almost organic in their alien design. They were unlike any threat humanity had ever faced, an existential danger that seemed to defy comprehension. But Maya knew they couldn't afford to be paralyzed by fear. She had made her decision, and now there was no turning back. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady. Lieutenant Commander Harper, standing beside her, quickly reviewed the data on his console. "All systems are online, Captain. The new technology is integrated and functioning as expected. Dr. Elias and his team are still working on a few adjustments, but we're ready to engage at your command." Maya nodded, turning to the communication officer. "Ensign Rivas, open a channel to the fleet." A moment later, Rivas nodded, indicating the channel was open. Maya took a deep breath and spoke, her words carried to every ship in the human fleet. "This is Captain Maya of the Athena. We are about to engage a threat unlike any we have faced before. The Voidborn are relentless, but we are stronger together. Remember what we are fighting for: our homes, our families, our future. Stay focused, stay united, and we will prevail." Vina out. As the channel closed, Maya glanced around the bridge, meeting the eyes of her officers. They were a mix of fear and determination, but in each gaze she saw the same resolve. They were ready. "Helm, set course for the Voidborn fleet," Maya ordered, her voice firm. "Take us into the void." The ship's engines roared to life, and the Athena surged forward, leading the fleet into battle. The stars blurred as they accelerated, the vastness of space closing in around them. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down, the quiet before the storm. Then, they were upon the enemy. The Voidborn fleet loomed ahead, a dark mass that seemed to swallow the light. The alien ships moved with an eerie grace, their forms shifting and twisting as they prepared to engage. Maya could feel the tension rising on the bridge as the distance between the two fleets closed rapidly. "Target their lead ship," Maya commanded, her eyes narrowing as she studied the enemy formation. "Focus all firepower on their shield weak points." The Athena's weapon systems locked onto the target, and a barrage of energy blasts erupted from the ship's cannons, streaking across the void toward the Voidborn. The other ships in the fleet followed suit, their combined firepower creating a deadly storm of energy that slammed into the enemy's shields. For a moment, it seemed as though their attacks were having an effect. The Voidborn ship's shields flickered, and parts of its hull began to disintegrate under the relentless assault. But then the Voidborn responded. A wave of energy erupted from the alien ships, a dark, pulsing force that seemed to ripple through space itself. The Athena shuddered as the energy hit, its shields straining under the impact. The bridge lights flickered, and alarms blared as the crew scrambled to compensate for the damage. "Shields holding at 60%, Harper reported, his voice tense. "But they're putting out more power than we anticipated. We can't take many more hits like that." Maya gritted her teeth, her mind racing. The Voidborn were more powerful than they had imagined, and their ability to adapt to the human fleet's tactics was terrifying. But they couldn't afford to back down now, not when so much was at stake. "Keep firing," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Focus on their weak points. We need to break their formation." The Athena's cannons roared again, joined by the rest of the fleet as they pressed their attack. The battle raged on, the void filled with the flashes of energy weapons and the silent explosions of damaged ships. Maya's eyes darted between the tactical display and the view screen, where the battle unfolded in stark detail. The human fleet was taking heavy losses, but they were holding their ground, refusing to yield to the overwhelming force of the Voidborn. And then, amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. A new energy signature appeared on the sensors, one that was unmistakably alien, but different from the Voidborn. Maya's heart skipped a beat as she realized what it was. "Captain," Harper said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's Zyra's people. They're here." Maya's eyes widened as she saw the new ships appear on the view screen, their sleek crystalline forms cutting through the darkness. The alien fleet moved with incredible speed and precision, their weapon systems already targeting the Voidborn. "They came," Maya murmured, a mixture of relief and apprehension flooding through her. The alien ships opened fire, their weapons unleashing a cascade of energy that tore through the Voidborn ranks. The enemy ships faltered under the combined assault, their formation breaking as they tried to respond to the new threat. "Commander, patch me through to Zyra's flagship," Maya ordered. Within moments, Zyra's voice came through the speakers, calm and resolute. "Captain Maya, we are here to fulfill our part of the alliance. Together, we will drive the Voidborn back." Maya's grip on the console tightened. "Thank you, Zyra. We'll coordinate our attacks. Let's end this." The combined fleets of humanity and Zyra's people pressed the advantage, their attacks coordinated and devastating. The Voidborn, despite their power, were overwhelmed by the sheer force of the united assault. As the battle reached its peak, the lead Voidborn ship, one of the largest in the fleet, began to break apart under the relentless fire. Its shields collapsed, and a massive explosion rippled through its structure, sending shockwaves through the void. The remaining Voidborn ships faltered, their cohesion shattered. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat, their dark forms vanishing into the depths of space. Finally, the void was silent. On the bridge of the Athena, the crew erupted in cheers, the tension of the battle giving way to a flood of relief and triumph. Maya allowed herself a small smile, but she knew the battle was only the beginning. The Voidborn had been defeated for now, but the war was far from over. "Damage report," she ordered, bringing the bridge back to focus. Harper scanned his console, his expression serious. "We took some heavy hits, but the ship is intact. Casualty reports are still coming in, but it looks like we made it through." Maya nodded, her mind already turning to the next steps. "Get repair teams working on the damage, and prepare a report for Earth. We need to inform command of what's happened here." As the crew set to work, Maya turned her attention to the viewscreen, where the alien fleet hovered in the distance. Zyra's ship was at the forefront, its crystalline structure glinting in the starlight. "Ensign Rivas, open a channel to Zyra," Maya said. When Zyra's voice came through, it was filled with a quiet strength. "We fought well today, Captain, but this is only the beginning. The Voidborn will return, and we must be ready." Maya nodded, her expression resolute. "We will be. Together, we can face whatever comes." Zyra's tone softened. "You are strong, Maya. Stronger than you know. Your people have proven themselves today. I believe we can build something great together." Maya felt a sense of hope stirring within her. "So do I, Zyra. This alliance, it's more than just a means to survive. It's a chance for both our species to grow, to learn from each other. We've only just begun." As the channel closed, Maya looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of the future settle on her shoulders. The battle had been won, but the road ahead was still uncertain. But for the first time, she felt truly ready to face it. And she knew, deep in her heart, that humanity would not face it alone.